Sarah Catherine, welcome to Salem Voices. I am so glad to have you. Are you kidding me?
Lizzie, thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you. We've been planning this now for some time. For everybody listening, this is Sarah Catherine Gutierrez, class of 2002 from Salem College, coming to us from Breckenridge, Colorado, on vacation with her family. But she has a story to tell, a new book she's just published, and we really thought she would just be ideal for us to interview today so you guys can get to know her better. What a great way to start. So what are you doing in Breckenridge, and why are you at a library, just to get us started?
Well, we're on our COVID-cation, and our kid, we're doing virtual school, so we're kind of like living out here for over 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it's just stunningly beautiful. Just no plan, mostly unplugged, but yeah, just enjoying the outdoors with the family. It's an incredible place. And to do this interview, the very, very kind people here at the Breckenridge Library allowed us to use their amazing facilities. So
well, it's
grateful
really
for
cool
that.
because as you talk, I can actually see people walking around looking for books, I guess, which is actually very cool. My understanding, though, is that you had to go to the library because your internet connection was not ideal from where you're
Oh, it's worse than dial-up. We're at 11,000 feet.
Oh my.
Our house is 2,000 feet above Breckenridge.
Yikes. Well, thank you for making the trek to join us. I really can't thank you enough. And by the way, I think you actually have 3 children. How is that working, considering COVID and everything going on? 3, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just checking. Yeah.
Just I was confirming it.
You had to check too, but how is that working for you with COVID going on, you being the entrepreneur you are, and we'll get to that in just a minute, but how are you handling, from all my friends who have children, even grandchildren, this is not easy. How are you handling that? What does that look like for you?
No, it's really not easy. And so the only silver lining is that my husband lost his business. So,
Nice.
right. How's that for a silver lining?
Sorry.
Yeah. So we own a salsa dancing nightclub, which in our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in my class with Professor Yowie, it never in my mind did I come up with a global pandemic as a threat to a salsa dancing venue. But to answer your question,
it's kind of close in salsa dancing, so it's kind of hard.
It's really we'll be the last ones to open, so to reopen. But the silver lining is my husband has really loved and said that he would do it all over again, this ability to have this unprecedented time to educate our kids. And so we're just embracing it. I've been doing part of the virtual school since I took off for these last couple of weeks. And, we're just trying to say, we'll never get this time back. So it's very silver lining for us. Thank you for asking.
Well, I know it's hard for everybody right now, but with 3 young children like you have, it's got to be especially challenging. All right. You actually mentioned Dr. Yo, and we're going to come back to him a little bit later, I think, in our conversation. So hold that thought, everybody. But anyway, it's great to have Sarah Catherine join us. The concept here, again, is that we've chosen certain Salem alum to highlight them and their journey and what's gone on in their life since they left Salem for all of us to learn from and be inspired by. And so Sarah Catherine is one of those that we chose to interview, and we're delighted she's able to join us. You're from the class of 2002, I believe, correct?
That's right, yes.
What did you major in?
So I was a double major with international business and music, piano performance.
I'll be darned. Perfect fit to exactly what we're going to talk about in a moment that you're doing. Not exactly, but life moves, doesn't it?
It sure
So
does.
why don't we just take that thread and move it forward? Since you graduated from Salem, just briefly, in 5 minutes or less, what's your journey look like, and where are you today?
Well, the journey beyond Salem started at Salem, and you can probably attest this from your time there. They waste no time in getting you prepared for the real world. So my internship started after my freshman year. So I was already part of the business school at that point, and they said, go get a job. If you think you want to go into finance, go do it. And I'm like, what is finance?
Of course.
And I remember Professor Yowie, when I did get an amazing internship at an investment bank, and it was through a program where everybody else was a rising senior, and I was a rising sophomore. and I was totally intimidated, out of my league. And he said, just be the first one to arrive and the last to leave, and just work as hard as you can.
Turn on the lights and turn off the lights. Yeah.
That's right. And I literally, as an intern, turned on the light. Now, I wasn't expecting the job that I had, which was in research. So we're the stock analyst, sell-side stock equity analysis.
Okay.
So our analyst arrived at 6:15.
Yikes. That's
Yeah.
pretty early.
Yep.
And that was not mountain time. That was actually Eastern time.
Central time.
Okay.
And yeah, so it was an unbelievable experience, long days, amazing, but they discontinued the internship that year. So I was asked to come back, though, individually, because of, just showing my dedication the next 2 summers. And so by obviously the last summer, I had a job doing just that lined up. And instead of that, I decided to, because I always knew I could come back and do that in my hometown, I decided to join the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. And so there was a Catholic campus minister at Wake Forest and Salem, I was Catholic, who said, who had done it, and I really admired her. And I said, I want to do that. And so to my parents' utmost dismay, I did that. Now, I didn't do it for just 1 year. I ended up staying and serving the homeless for 2 more years after that, so a total of 3 years. But it turned out I had this kind of knack for public policy. So I was I was in Arizona. I was getting really involved in it. And so ended up deciding to study public policy and got accepted to the Harvard Kennedy School. Now, Julie Ostergaard, who was the inspiration behind the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, sends my parents a Harvard University decal for their car and says, "Are we cool now?"
Okay, yeah. Did she make up for it okay by giving
We're good. So you won't believe this. So as I'm arriving at the Harvard Kennedy School, there on my floor of my dorm is Mimi Aledo, who is a year ahead of me at Salem College in the same program at the Kennedy School. So
unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And Mimi now is actually one of the trustees at Salem.
That's exactly right. So 2 people just absolutely love Salem and benefited from it there in the same hall. And of course, she took me under her wing, and it was just an amazing experience. I think we had 3 or 4 consecutive years of Salem students going to grad school at Harvard. So it was just
I think
amazing.
Katie Holland was there a couple of years before you as well.
That's right.
So, yeah, there were probably a number of you there. Just a little Salem kind of train to Harvard.
Yeah, exactly. I think someone went to Harvard Ed School right after that. So anyway, so I did that for a couple of years, then decided to move back to Arkansas, which is my hometown. And, I thought if I'm going to make the biggest public policy difference, it's going to be where I'm from. And so I moved back, and I took that amazing job that I had put on hold. They had kept that job there, warm for me for a good 5 years, and became a sell-side stock analyst at Stephens, an investment bank. And so anyway, the interesting thing is that was in 2007 that I graduated and started that job as a stock analyst. Okay. Now, we all know it happened in 08, 09, right?
Right. Bad timing. Right.
Try picking stocks in 07 when you know 08, 09 is coming, right?
Yeah.
But here's what's interesting about the story. So recall that I had worked in Arizona. So I've been in Arizona in the height of that housing boom, which is what caused the 08, 09 crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And I almost bought a house making $23,000 a year. I almost bought a house. I would never have gone on the trajectory had I gone if I had done just that. And a lot of my friends that bought the houses, incredible financial pain. Mm-hmm. And so what ended up happening is I just asked this simple question, which is, how did all those people in America buy houses that they couldn't afford? And so even though I was a stock analyst, which is not at all financial planning or, individual, investments, we're just picking, we're just trying to be right on, 18 stocks. So I couldn't shake this idea. And when I started looking into it, I realized that the world of financial advising is broken up into 2 different ways of giving advice. One is you're selling something, and that's not advice, that's a sale, which is what happened with all these people, who were selling those mortgages, selling houses. That's their interest, is selling, not in the ultimate, financial responsibility of the person.
Right.
Or they're managing assets, and most people don't have assets to manage. And so I decided, the world needed a new kind of way of being able to say, like, I'm about to buy this house. Can you tell me if I can afford it? Is this a good idea? And so I decided to leave a job I thought I'd have the rest of my life. I mean, resumes were piling up in the conference room. I mean, Lehman Brothers fell, look at Bear Stearns, like all these people wanted my job. And I just felt like I had to do this. And so I left and started a company called Aptus Financial, which is a company that just sold financial advice by the hour, sold no products, did no investing, just sold advice. And so that's been my journey. We're almost at a decade at Aptus. And I mean, you can see the Salem thread through it, right?
I mean, I can not only see it, but I can feel it from you, which is really cool. And we're going to continue that Salem thread throughout the entire conversation. But I have to ask you, the courage it takes to walk away from a paycheck, from confidence, from knowing that day to day you're going to have a paycheck to pay for rent, if not a house, whatever it is you're paying for, and to say, I have the courage to start my own business and be an entrepreneur. Tell me how you did that and what attributes, what have you learned about being an entrepreneur that are the attributes you really need to be able to hone to really be able to do this? So first, tell me about the courage. Secondly, if you will, about the attributes. What does it take to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, the courage is, and I would love to get into that. A lot of that started at Salem. So there's and you have this, Lucy. You've got it's being audacious.
Yeah.
We can live a life where we just let inertia take us day by day, or we can live a life where we're constantly saying, is this the best and highest use of my time and where I should be and where my calling is? So I think a lot of that was that idea of like, there's so much we have to offer, and am I doing it in the best way? I think that's where the courage came from. And then the attributes, I will say this. Well, first of all, a pile of cash. I had never saved in my life. I'd never saved money. And at my graduation,
we're going to talk a lot about that before this is over. Go right ahead.
My graduation from the Kennedy School, David Gergen, who's a commentator at CNN, his advice was beware the golden handcuffs. And he said, I'm so sick and tired of all these people graduating from here who have big dreams. And then all they do is they get used to their paycheck and they don't pursue their dreams. And I listened. And so from that moment, I became a saver for the first time in my life. And so as my pile of cash grew in my savings account, I would definitely save my imagination for actually leaving and starting my own job and knowing I could pay the rent, knowing I could do all those things. I mean, it certainly helped. Second of all, failing all the time. You fail constantly. People think that failure is like, oh, I started a business, it didn't work, it failed. That is not the way it works. You fail like almost on a weekly basis because you try something and then it doesn't work. Right. And then you can't say, oh, I'm so really dumb. Like, oh, I'm not supposed to do this. You have to just try again. And you try something 20 times and fail. And then it's the 21st time that it'll work. So I think being very comfortable and not self-critical is really important to be able to fail well. And then stop assuming you can't do anything. Now, this is something they ingrain at Salem. And one of my mentors says I'm on a 20-year listening curve. So I think I finally have it from Salem. Salem, I have listened. Stop assuming you can't do anything. So so I have this business, it's going well. It's a financial planning business. And we're building this practice. And one of my customers owned a large company, and she said, we have this retirement plan to bid. Would you like to bid on it? And the first thing I said, what was the first thing I said?
First thing you said was how much? What's the starting bid? Or
no, I said, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that.
You did not do that. Wait, you just said that was then, not now.
Right. That's what I said to this woman, handing me an opportunity to bid on a major retirement plan where I would manage their 401k. And instead of saying, oh, that sounds amazing, let me get a bid to you, I said, oh, no, I couldn't possibly do that. So anyway, luckily, she's an amazing person and has become one of my mentors. And the door was still open. And I looked at it. And took about it.
Just one quick thing, Sarah Catherine, just to interrupt, because this is a really salient point for every listener. And a lot of our listeners may be students still today. And I think I just don't want to pass that by, what you just said. because the opportunities are there. We have to grab them. And
Yes.
studies show that often women don't. We wait until we're 100% confident, I can do that. Whereas that's not true necessarily with guys. And it is vitally important that we find that inner strength to say, okay, I may only know 60% of this, but I can learn. And yeah, I have the skills that it takes to do this. So I'm going to stretch myself and say yes. I mean, obviously, if somebody asks, do you know Russian? You shouldn't say yes, thinking you're going to learn it overnight. You know what I mean? But other things, we have to stretch ourselves. And I think that's where you're going. You ultimately did.
100%.
Yeah.
And, you know, you know, to make a long story over it's only been 3 years, and we already are managing 200 million in assets in all of our retirement plans. We have thousands of participants. And imagine if this woman had just said, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, that's fine. Just, you know, and I hadn't pursued it. It's just amazing. So so I have 2 businesses now. We have the personal financial planning and then the retirement plan business. And it's already half and half revenue. So, I mean, just that one split second.
One moment of someone pursuing you and holding on and saying, wait a minute, yes, you can, and I believe in you, which leads me to the whole concept of mentorship. And I promised I'd come back to Dr. Yo. So if you would, you mentioned him as a mentor. You've probably had several in your life, but can you just share, if it's him you want to highlight, that's wonderful. But what does mentorship mean to you? And should other people get mentors? Should they mentor? What does it mean? What does it matter?
Yeah, so Professor Yohe, and it's hard to even imagine talking about him without tearing up. He passed away last year, and a dear, dear person in my life, and his wife Sharon. And so he was my professor in 3 different classes, and during the time at Salem, he pushed me way beyond my comfort zone. So it's really important for you to know that when I showed up to Salem, I was not a scholarship student. I had really poor ACT scores, and I was pretty shy. I'd never had any leadership experience. So I showed up to Salem like that. And Professor Yohe was one of many professors who would not accept this kind of predestination of that's how I'll always be. So he encouraged me to take classes at Wake Forest, to, you know, just because he wanted me to continuously challenge things. He was one of the first people to sign up for, you know, when I was looking at grad schools, he was like, you can think bigger than that. So I think what mentors can do is push us to see things in ourselves that we can't even see.
Yeah.
And he and his wife, who I've gotten to know and really love and adore, you know, has played that same role in my life. And there's so many. It's hard even to single out one person, but yeah, he definitely played a very central role there, and ever since.
What a lovely tribute to what must have been just a tremendous man. So what a lovely thing to say. As you think about mentors, what's the importance to you? Are you mentoring women today? Is that something that's important to you? And what does that look like? Are some of those relationships formal, or are they all informal? How do you push the next generation? What does that look like?
So only 12% of all leadership in the financial world is made up of women. So
12%?
12%.
Unacceptable.
Right. So the way I'm working to change that, so we just hired our first female CFA. So just 2 weeks ago. So we now have more women working at my financial company than men. I have an actual formal mentoring program where I'm actually mentoring women to become my competitors. So I will mentor.
That takes courage as well. That takes a lot of courage for you to do
Yeah,
that.
I believe that we have to grow this pie. So the kind of business that I have is still so rare. If there's a woman who wants to start a business like mine, I just think it grows the pie. So any woman who expresses an interest in starting her own business as a flat fee financial planning company, I will mentor the whole way. I'll open my books. I'll show, you know, how we charge, you know, how we make money, what our expenses, all of that. And I have about 5 women that we touch bases with periodically. I have women who want to come and work for Aptus, who want to make career changes over time. And so I'm also mentoring a lot of them on, how to look at the CFP, the Certified Financial Planner designation, and just kind of prepare for, like I have a woman who's a physician who wants to transition to being, a financial planner at Aptus. So anyway, yeah, I'm really interested in attracting more women in the field. We hire, I just graduated a young woman who's an intern from Aptus, did a phenomenal job this summer. I'm hoping she'll go into the world of finance. So yeah, I believe wholeheartedly in
All right.
paying
So if just quick advice to a young person right now who would like to find a mentor, how do they do that, and how do they approach somebody like you and say, would you be a mentor for me?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Sheryl Sandberg talks about this in Lean In. I think it's the title of the chapter, Will You Be My Mentor? And so what she's recommending is don't do that. Don't go to a random woman and say, will you be my mentor? The best way to do it is to find someone who you've worked with, who knows you well, not just someone who you see them in lights and you just, ask for their mentorship. This needs to be someone that you intern for, who's a professor, someone like that you can connect with. And if you don't have someone like that, then foster that relationship.
Build an authentic relationship then first.
An authentic relationship. It needs to be, because they're going to be a better mentor to you. They're going to be more invested in you that way. So again, back to the internships, like if you're listening to this and you're still in school, those internships are just priceless, like almost as valuable as the education itself. I mean, because that's the networking that can lead to, a real career jumpstart.
Okay, fantastic. You mentioned the word leadership just a minute ago, I think, kind of under your breath, almost slightly. But I want to take that and kind of blow it up just a bit. In your career so far, and what a career you've already had, and we're going to talk about a big step in your career in just a second. But as we think about that, what leadership lessons have just jumped off the plate at you? If you were to reflect on what are the major attributes of being a leader and what has that taught you, what would you share? If I want to be a leader of something, what do I need to think about and how do I need to be in the world?
Yes. Okay. I will say this because I know that the millennial and Gen Z generations, I think this is the biggest struggle. I believe the best leaders are the ones who can grow into their leadership. And let me just say, the hardest thing to do to become a really good leader is to accept criticism. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's it. I don't know why that's becoming harder and harder generationally. I think it's because we have such high expectations just bearing down on us that we can't be wrong. We can't, because, criticism means that we're not smart, not all of these things. And I think that if you can learn to accept criticism, the earlier you can start welcoming it and then incorporating it, I think that is the most critical piece of being a leader. Because, I mean, a lot of people can become leaders. You work hard enough, you're going to get there.
Well, there's a difference too in positional leadership, perhaps, and really being a leader. And when I hear you use the word criticism, if we reframed that into coaching or feedback, maybe that makes it a little more palatable. I think some people hear that word and they go, yeah, and just kind of react.
But I love that word.
I think of the great sports, players, the world's best. If you think of, golf, you think of Tiger Woods in the day and all of that, they all had coaches. The very best still have a coach because they know they still need to learn and get feedback or criticism, whatever you might want to call it. But they're open to that. And in fact, they desire it every moment. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, learn from others, which feeds into the mentorship part too, I think.
Yeah. And remember, people, I mean, like these coaches who are really well paid, if you have someone willing to give you feedback in your life, for free, oh my God, that's even better. Like, people who are willing to go out of their way to offer constructive feedback. And again, like all paths kind of lead from Salem for me, being a music major, when you get up to perform, because that's how you get your grade every semester, a panel of your professors there, and they have a clipboard and they have their pencil and they're writing on a piece of paper, and you know that there's never going to be a positive thing written. They're only writing critique, and they call it critique.
That's hard,
right?
Sarah Catherine. Yeah.
It's but it was great training, because at first you're like, you know, only people have only told me how great I am. It's hard. But I will say, like, once you get past yourself and can really look at the generosity of those people taking the time to write that out, and you realize, wow, that's going to make me a better piano player. Like, that's amazing. And I think that with leadership, we have to know, like, we can't be good at everything. And so to me, being a really good leader in my company, I know right now what I'm not good at. And you know what I do for the things that I'm not good at and that I'm also not interested? I hire people to do that.
And then let them do their job, right, buddy?
Yeah. And get out of their way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I love that. Well, we're going to in just a minute, we're going to transition into Salem. You keep wanting to go there. And
I'm sorry.
I want us to go there too. That's where we're going in just a second. But kind of not a commercial break, but I really want to brag about you just for 1 second, because you've just not just written. It was a 3 or 4 year, I think, love fest.
3 years.
If I remember right, starting in a hotel room on a different vacation. But the bottom line is, it's just been published. And I'm just going to share it, because your real professional journey and your real desire, I think, is to impact the world, especially women with lady-splaining, how to save and how to take care of their future. So if I say money, you say what?
Save.
Save, save, save. This is your new book. Why don't you tell folks just briefly about it? And also, if they want this, because it is about saving. It's about taking care of ourselves. And by the way, you can't say this. I mean, you won't say this. I will. It's a great book, easily readable, fun, even as full of your personality. So I just love it. I love it. But tell us about it and where can people get it if they want to.
Well, thank you for saying that. And yeah, it was a labor of love, but I loved the process so much. And I hope we will get back to Salem, because, I was not a writer when I showed up at Salem. And now I've written a book and I'm a columnist for our paper. I love to write. And wow, what would have happened if I didn't discover that during college? So the book, it was a 3-year process, and it happened after I started doing these retirement plans. And let me just tell you, 2 types of women would come in front of me. So one woman would be, 30s, 40s, 50s, and we would be talking about retirement, and like a broken record, they would say, where were you when I was in my 20s? Because inevitably they were having to make major lifestyle changes to get to the right savings rate to be able to retire. Because remember, with the rules of compound interest, the earlier you start saving, the better chance you have.
Even small amount, right? I mean, every $5 matters. I think that's what the book says here. Yeah.
Exactly. So what ended up happening is, hearing that over and over, and then I could get a 23-year-old. This is her first job, starting at the company that we're doing the retirement plan. And I, talked to her about her dreams and hopes, and she didn't even know what her paycheck's going to look like. And I say, okay, see this box right here? I want you to put 10%. Yep. Okay, done. Now, the studies show, and my experience proves out, that 90% of people, once they choose that, will never change it.
Wow.
So I know that a 30-minute conversation in front of a young woman who's 23 years old, who picks 10% into a retirement plan, that is going to ultimately change her entire life trajectory. Because it means not only will she be able to retire, it also means at age 40, when she wakes up and says, oh my gosh, well, should I be saving? Like, because there's a point where we always do that. And then she would have to sell her house, sell a car. I mean, like, women are having to do very dramatic things to catch up on saving, which is still good, and they're still happy they're doing it. But I know that instead of her having to do that, she can be saving for her dream home, putting her kids through college, saving for college. It's an interesting phenomenon. So I decided to write the book that these women were asking me to write. Now, let me tell you a fun fact. So women across the board underperform men on saving. We underperform men on every single financial literacy test. And so I'm telling you, like, it's not good. But do you know where women outperform?
No.
In every measure in investing.
in where to invest? How
Investing, their
where to put it?
performance.
Okay.
So if you so female stock analysts outperform male stock
Okay.
analysts. Women who invest their money outperform men who invest their money. So I know everyone loves to talk about the Wall Street Bull and that it's a male's world. That's fine, but we're still doing better at it.
I love
So
that.
what I love about this book is I can say, look, you have a knowledge gap. Let's close it. It's, if you go save, I don't need you to obsess about saving. I just need you to go sign up for 10% of your retirement plan. It's really written for women just getting out of college. It's a great college gift. So you're getting out of college, you read this, you close that gap. And then I'm giving women the confidence to say, look, if you're scared of investing, it is that very fear and insecurity that makes you a better investor, because you're going to buy and hold for the long term. You're not going to be so overconfident that you're going to trade, because over trading is a sign of overconfidence, and that's highly correlated with underperforming the market. So it is a book that casts away fear and shame, that builds women up and where we are good, and then just gives that informational gap.
I love
like
it.
it is
I mean, it's just really easy to follow what you said. So it's called, but first save 10. And if somebody did want to get it, where could they find it?
Okay, so you can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target.
Okay.
But this is where I would do it,
Okay.
is buy it with my publisher and you'll get a signed copy. And so if you go to at Alia, just Google but first save 10, it should come up. At Alia Press is the publisher. And
And
a few days later, you're going to get a signed copy with all my best mojo that I can put into that book.
Well, I just got to say, and we're going to now transition to Salem, and I'm going to do a little rapid fire here for you, just to help folks kind of ground you, what you thought of when you were at Salem. But I just could not be happier or more proud. So as a Salem alum as well as sister alum, I just want to say thank you, and we're really proud of you. So well done. Thanks.
Well, that is so kind of you to say. And it's like one of those things that I think part of my life has been driven by wanting to make Salem proud because of how much it did for me. And Lucy, your story is absolutely unreal too. And I hope we're going to get to your story of, being able, getting your PA and
thank you.
after your master's, and then getting the FDA, what is it? Medal of Honor. I mean,
today's about you. So we're gonna go back to Salem. We'll come to me one day. But right now, tell everybody, what was your favorite course at Salem College?
So I think my favorite course at Salem College was probably my course in my just the basic English. I don't even know what the course was.
Okay,
just that
English
first
101.
Yeah.
We're going to call it English 101. One-word answers here, all right? Because I'm going to do these fast because I want to get to some cool other questions about Salem for you. But all right, I think I know this answer maybe already, but what faculty member had the greatest impact on you?
Professor Yowie.
Yeah, all right. What was your favorite tradition at Salem?
Fall Fest.
Fall Fest. And for those of you who are of a certain age, Fall Fest is the renamed tradition that we used to call Founders Day, that you guys did something different for Founders Day. But if you're my age or thereabouts, you would have called it Founders Day. So it's the same or very similar. Okay, what was your favorite food in the dining hall or refectory, whichever you happen to call it?
I mean, the whole hotline every day, all day long.
The whole hotline every day. The fact it was,
I mean, all day long. Like I'd be there at 5 p.m. like opening up the doors. I'm there to eat whatever's in that line.
Just enjoying the food. All right. And what was your favorite place to study? Did you have a place you hid or that you really enjoyed studying that was a little out of the ordinary, or was it just your residence hall?
Just my residence hall. Sorry. Okay. Kind of boring.
Okay. You didn't get lost in the library stacks or go up to the FAC or anything fun like that?
The FAC, I was there quite a bit studying because I was practicing there a lot. But yeah.
Of course you were. All right. So you've already answered this to some degree, but there may be something else you want to add. As you reflect, how did Salem prepare you best for your kind of work and life success? Were there specific things that Salem gave you in addition to the ones you've already talked about? And I'll just add on to this. Some people say at Salem they kind of feel a secret sauce. I'm not exactly sure how to say it, but something special about it that fills you with something. Can you put a finger on it? Can you put words around what Salem gave you to get you going as you are?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you know, reversing a lot of what I thought was my track, is the secret sauce. Like they don't, you walk in a blank slate and they're there to help you mold your potential. So, I mean, everything from the writing classes to I came in thinking I was bad at math, turning that around. I build my own mathematical models now. I was bad at math. Like, I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, things turned around dramatically. So yeah, internships, all of that, I think is part of the secret sauce. But like to me, one of the more touching things in my life is I didn't have a lot of friendships growing up, and I had this really sad thing happen. I lost all of my hair as a young girl, and I always thought, well, I'll have friends when it grows back, and it never did. And so one of my sweetest memories is starting at Salem College my freshman year, still bummed that I still, didn't have any hair. And these girls that, on my Babcock third floor just absolutely embraced me. They were my first real friendships in life. And you just cannot underestimate like how powerful it is to have your girl tribe. And they're still dear friends to this day. And I honestly, like, that's probably the secret sauce.
Your friends. Do you
Hmm.
still get together with your friends? Because they're going to be watching this. I mean, they're going to make
I
sure
don't
you
know
know
about
Holocaust
that.
is all about this. So you get a real chance to say thank you to that class, to your sister class, to whatever you want. Do you still see your friends today? Or are they still important in your life?
Yeah, and as much as we are terrified of social media, I'm so grateful for it because I've been able to keep up with my Salem sisters really far and wide. And I think that if anything, like our friendships have grown over the years as a class. But I had my little core group of friends that are just so dear to me. We were supposed to all celebrate our 40th birthdays in Cabo this year, and it was devastating when we had to cancel it because of COVID. But we're gonna
You'll see them
we're
soon.
gonna plan it
There you
post
go.
COVID.
This vaccine's coming. It's just got to. So you'll see them soon. Well,
Yeah.
look, before we close, and what a great time I've had talking with you. This is amazing. But before we do, word for students. If you think back, you think about that letter you'd write to your 20-year-old self. As we think about you as a college freshman or a college senior getting ready to leave, what now have you learned at I'm assuming right around age 40, that you would write to yourself and say, take advantage of this, or don't do that, or do this? What's your wisdom that you might share with students today based on what you've learned since then?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the best question, because I do wish I could go back to my younger self because I was so driven, and I am still driven, but I was driven at that time along with this kind of just that angst, in your 20s.
Oh, yeah.
And I wish I could go back to myself and be like, look, love harder, laugh harder, like travel more, and just stop worrying. And one of my favorite philosophers, a mystic, Julian of Norwich, her wisdom, all shall be well. Like, remember that. No matter how bad you think something's going to happen, it's not going to be that bad. If I could just don't you think wisdom brings that? Like, you just know it's all going to work
I
out.
wake up in the night and you worry about so many things that you wake up in the morning and go, why was I so worried all the time about that?
Right.
Extrapolate that to bigger things in life. Yeah, I agree. What wisdom to share. Enjoy the moment, right? And really take full advantage of everything that's around you.
That's right. And ladies, I just turned 40, so I feel like I earned the right to say that I am wise.
I'm going to say, look right in the camera right now and tell folks what you'd like for them to remember about this conversation. What would you like for them to really take home? And what parting words of wisdom do you have for people?
Gosh, I would just say go for it. But here's the thing. It's not just success, right? Like success is never going to bring nearly what you think it's going to bring. Cherish the ones you love. Like that's the whole point in life, right?
Yeah.
So, for me, it's my husband and my 3 young kids, and really reframing everything that I'm doing around, like, what kind of life can we build? And this is the other thing, is never ever let inertia decide your day. You decide. Never let, just because you did it the day before does not mean you need to do that the next day. And I think if we can start living that way, building up our pile of cash to build our imagination for what we can have in the future, I think we can build really joyful lives.
Wow. What a lovely way to end this. I'm not going to add one more thing except to say thank you. Thank you for coming down off the mountain into the library to share real wisdom that you learned in real life, not just from books, but books as well. Thank you ever so much. And for everybody listening, we'll do more of these, and I'm very excited. But I really, in this moment, want to just say thank you to Sarah Catherine for her time, for her wisdom, and for the wonderful life and impact you're making on everybody else. You make us proud. Thanks from all your Salem siblings. We are grateful. Take care.
Thank you
And
so
for
much. What
everybody
a huge
listening,
honor.
Salem strong. We'll see you again soon.